Welcome. I'm Anthony RedHatAugust, Radzykewycz, right? And I am going to be talking today about file transfers. Before I jump into that, I wanted to just jump in the portal, right? Based on a question that came up, I want to address it like, hey, do we have any zero to hero courses? How does one get started with little to no experience? And I want to become a pen tester. That's awesome. That's awesome, right? Again, I would recommend signing up for, fundamentals or even the learn one for Pen 200 so that you can get, this, right? Pen 100, but make sure you have ample time. Make sure you have ample time. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff right here, right? I mean, we go from like, obviously we're introducing the course, right? How do we do it? What do we do? What should you expect? But we're doing Linux, we're doing Windows, networking, 3 different scripting languages. We got Linux networking and services 1 and 2, right? So I wrote those. These are actually the first ones I wrote for the company. So there you go. We got Windows networking and services, network scripting, right? Working with shells. What does that even mean? Troubleshooting, cryptography, web applications, introduction to Active Directory. Active Directory is, most people know nowadays, that's a big thing, right? It's a big portion of Pen 200 too. Our exam change, it's what is it, 40% of the entire grade, and you have to get that. So we also revamped that whole section and did like a lot of Active Directory stuff, really good stuff. Like my colleagues, oh my God. Anyway, whatever. But that's the introduction to it. So it's like, what the heck do we even mean when we say Active Directory? How do we work with it? What do we do? And then today we're going to be talking about file transfers. So let me get into the presentation. Oh, let me move myself over there. And let's get rocking and rolling. Yeah, let me put this up. It's kind of in my way. There we go. All right. So again, I'm Anthony, RedHatAugust Radzykewycz. I wrote the file transfers module, which used to be in Pen 200, and then we pivoted to putting it in Pen 100. Oops. There we go. Oh, so today what we're going to cover is, first off, why? Why did we do this? Then a brief overview of what that module is, what's in it. I really want to emphasize the word of caution that's in there so that we understand like future thinking, right? We're looking at, or at least this module is geared toward like, hey, let's become future pen testers. What are some things that are revolving around this that we need to keep in mind, right? What are some things we need to be careful of? I just gonna highlight really quick the transfer methods and utilities that are covered in the module. And then we're gonna look at wget, curl, and PowerShell. Got something in there really excited about for you guys as well, and gals, right? And then after that, I'll go back to the chat and we can do the Q&A until the hour is done. So, some people have asked why is this no longer in Pen 200, right? You revamped that whole course. Why'd you take it out of Pen 200 and put it into Pen 100, right? Well, okay, let me take a step back. Here's the thing: is this is a useful skill before you conduct a penetration test, right? So we want to understand how we can transfer files from one system to another, from more like a systems use case, right? If that makes sense. So we want to know how we can bring files from our computer, usually our Kali machine, into our target machine once we gain entry into that so we can continue forward, right? Or maybe we want to download something from the target machine into our machine, right? We need to understand how we can move these files, these tools, whatever that we need from one system to another. However, the transferring itself is not penetration testing. It's more of a function of, something that we do when we're in a system or when we're working with a system. So to us, it's more of a fundamental skill than it is, like really geared toward penetration testing. The other thing as well is this alleviates content overload with Pen 200. Pen 200 is a pretty sizable course, right? And taking this out of there and moving it into the 100 not only opens up access for this module to more people, hopefully, more learners, right? But it also takes away all of those pages from the Pen 200 content and hopefully helps with that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is so much. How can I manage this? Right? Like this is an elephant that I need to eat. And I know that I need to do it one bite at a time, but I'm full. Right. So the other thing is these skills are cross-functional, right? Obviously, it's very beneficial to know this stuff for penetration testers, but even defenders, right? Knowing how this works or even being able to do this in some capacity is important. But if we're looking at logs or we're looking at indicators of compromise as well, like understanding these utilities, these methodologies can really help in detection and response. And then even for system administrators, how do I get a file from here to here? Oh, and I don't have USBs and I don't have physical access to the office or, whatever the deal is. These skills can help in that regard as well. And of course, there's all sorts of subdomains of the IT industry, right, in tech that aren't listed here. But I believe that this is a very useful skill set, right? And definitely a fundamental concept before you get into penetration tests. If you get good at this, once you get into a machine and, this is a piece of cake, you're going to be rocking and rolling. It's it'll be good. You make a shell, you throw in your shell, you pop it, you get it back, privilege escalation, enumeration kind of stuff. So anyway, and again, I'm going to go back to these skills are not penetration testing. It's more of a function of what we can do while doing a penetration test. So this is more fundamental skills. So anyway, the brief overview of the module is there's a learning unit of considerations and preparations, right? We're going to cover the dangers of transfer and attack tools, which we're going to talk about. Installing, configuring pure FTPD, right? So we're going to make a pure FTPD server. We make a TFTP server, right? And how to work with that. And then we run an Apache 2 server and we set that up. And what I'm excited about has to do with that as well, but later on. Then we move on to transfer techniques, which is going to cover like web transfers, netcat, SCP, FTP, TFTP, right? So we set up these servers and then we're going to work with them. And you do have exercise hosts in the module as well to work with. And then outside of that, right, after the transfer techniques, we specifically like focus on Windows, what's on Windows, and we have a few different things that we're focusing on. We have certutil, right, bits admin, and these are living off the land binaries, meaning they're generally pre-installed on that system. And there's a lot more of these that couldn't be covered in the module. One, because some of them are crazy complicated, and two, there's a lot of them, right? There's a ton of them. So those resources and references should be in the module of where you can seek those out as well if you wanted to expand your own knowledge outside of what's written. And then, of course, PowerShell, right? How do we download and upload with PowerShell? So here's a word of caution. So imagine this. I'm in a penetration test with an organization, right? So I'm going through and I gain access to their system. And once I'm inside, I do some enumeration and I find out, hey, this machine's kernel is vulnerable to this exploit, right? So I use these skills, the file transferring skills, to take the exploit from my Kali machine and put it on the target machine. And I conduct a successful privilege escalation on that target, right? So I write up my report and I'm done, right? I'm done with my engagement, with my penetration test. I hand it to the company. We talk about remediation. We go through the whole gamut of it, right? Well, after me, this guy comes in, and I forgot to clean up my tools. All right, I forgot to remove that kernel exploit that resulted in a privilege escalation. So they found the entry as well, but my tool is still on there. So this is all to say we need to be extremely cognizant of what files we are taking and what files we are placing in terms of a target machine in a penetration test, right? Because if we don't clean up what we have, or we don't manage the files that we've taken in a good way, that could lead to more harm to the company than the good that we intended to do with the penetration test. So what are we going to cover in this module in terms of transfer methods and utilities? Well, we go wget and curl, which we'll talk a little bit about today. netcat, SCP, FTP, TFTP, cert, util, bits, admin, and PowerShell. You see how this aligns with the module layout in the learning unit and the respective sections. So for wget and curl, well, welcome to the common room, right? These are very common utilities that are used to download files in various ways. It depends on what you're trying to do, or if you want to save the file or not. Both of these can save the file, but you'll notice that I put wget. We download the file. Very straightforward syntax, which is wget and the URL of the page or the file that you're trying to download. That's it. It'll download the file to save it to your machine. You can change the name, of which we cover in the module. You can do some other stuff as well with options, but this is the general syntax. Now, curl, if you do the same syntax, it doesn't actually save the file. Instead, it will display the file contents to your terminal, right? And I'll showcase some of this here in a bit, but it doesn't save it to your machine. Well, this is about transferring files, right? So we want it to save to a file most of the time. So we have the -O option to make sure that it actually gets put to an output file. Now, let's see. Okay. I just wanted to check the chat because, we've gone a little ways through here. I believe that all of this will be available later, so no worries on that. And if the video is available, that's how you can access the slides. So we have wget and curl, right? This is web transferring. So let me take a quick moment here. I'm actually going to go in here, and I don't know. Let's see. We can go to web transfers. Mm-hmm. All right, give me a minute. And then I got the Kali machine up here. So let's fire that up. Now I understand that this may be a little hard to see. Like that is extremely hard to see. So hold on, let me make it a lot larger. And then I'm gonna check the chat. I want the chat to tell me, hey, can you guys see this? Yay or nay? Okay, I got one yeah, one yay, two yays. All right, let's go. Okay, so I'm going to use my Kali VM instead of the in-browser Kali. And there's a reason for that. One, I prepped for this a little bit. And two, I have some special files, which we're going to talk about here later, that are on my machine. And I do recommend you have those files and you set up your server in that way, because I mean, to me, yeah, it was mind blowing. It's freaking crazy. But again, I don't want to jump the gun. Obviously, I'm a little too excited for that part. All right, so here we go. We got that. So I just connected to the VPN that I'm trying to get to. So let me throw that up here. We have the connection down there. So we're rocking and rolling. This is the module content. And let's say I'm just going to fire up this machine right here. Okay. So this is one of the exercise hosts that you'll have access to and be able to work with. This one, I believe you have root level access, so you can walk through the exercises and do everything that you need to do with like, there's, nothing getting in your way there. And then we got this one, which is where you're going to focus on, some of the exercises like, hey, download this file from there. In this case, it's download that binary and then execute it. If it doesn't work on your machine, use the in-browser Kali, because that is something I had to test multiple times. All right, so we got that. Let's take another look at it. We got 177, 154. So let's see. 192.168.177 dot. Oh, I forgot the last part. 154. Here we go. All right. Yeah, we'll add that and we'll access it here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that might be right. Yeah, see, it's the root one. It's not OffSec this time. So we'll try it again. Root, and I will clear this in. Oh, I will clear this in just a minute. There we go. Let's replace that. See, I was speaking the words, but then I didn't do the thing. So here we go. There we go. So say, for instance, we're inside this machine and we want to transfer something out of it or like into it, right? So let me change the color of this. I am going to put this as this kind of dirty yellow looking color. And then this one, I'm going to change to red. And then that way we can determine the red one, the red terminal tab is my Kali machine. And the dirty yellow one is my target, right? So we're going to be going back and forth between machines. Hopefully the color will help a little bit in understanding what we're looking at. So say, for instance, you know what, I'm going to elevate my privileges and I'm going to go into var www HTML. And if you don't know what any of this is, that is okay. The module will cover it. This is Apache 2, right? This is the standard directory of where it is hosted. I have some stuff in here, but we're going to do systemctl status Apache 2 to see if it's running or not. If it's not running, we would just, we would just execute start, right? And then it's going. But, and I know I'm moving super fast here, but we can see that it is active and it is running, right? Like we're ready to go on this. So all we need to do is we need to put a file in there, right? So say, for instance, one of the tools that we work with is Netcat. Netcat can be used to create like different kinds of shells, right? It's a utility, network utility. We can use it to transfer files as well, as this module will cover, but it's something that is useful. Oh geez, that's a lot. Hold on, there we go. It is something that is useful in terms of, different functions that we may want to complete. Now, let me refine my locate thing here. So what I did there is I just went locate, and I'm looking through the system for Netcat, right? NC. But since I just typed NC, it showed a bunch of stuff, right? But we're going to want to use the NC traditional. So if I take this and I copy that into my root directory of my web service, right? We can see that Netcat traditional is now inside the web server. So we can use wget. So let's see where we're at first, right? We'll print the working directory. We're in the root directory. What's in here? Pretty much nothing, right? So, and then we can see if there's any hidden files, ls-al, everything, long listing, they have the periods. But again, nothing really important for us in terms of this. But I can do wget, HTTP, there we go. And then I need to figure out what my IP is. So I do IPA, my IP is 192.168.45.5 as indicated by tunnel 0, right? So the VPN connection 192.168.45.5. And I want to download NC traditional into this machine. And that's a syntax for wget, right? Web get it. So downloading from my server, my Kali machine, onto the target host, that's all that's needed. Now let's take a look in the directory. We see that it's there, so I can do a chmod and make it executable because this is a binary, right? This is an application. And then see if I can run it. So it does the command line. That's great. That's a good indication. Let me put a -H and it shows the help menu. Okay, now let's do the same thing, but let me remove it, but we'll do it with curl. So let's see if there's any difference here. Anybody think there might be a difference at all based on what I've said so far? Ooh, yeah, there's a good question there. And yeah, there's a reason why I did this as well, but I'm gonna get to that. Oh, somebody said, can I fix the display resolution? That might be a little tricky, but I can just maximize the prompt the best I can and try to exhibit, you know, like the task, the thing that we're doing. All right, so somebody says not going to save, will not input to a, or output to a file. Let's find out, right? So we got that, and it's like, hey, whoa, binary output can mess up your terminal. Use output to tell curl to output to your terminal anyway. So we want to show it. And yes, it can it can mess up your terminal session. It's a good time. You should try it one time. Just cat a binary and see what happens on, you know, like on a Red Hat system or something. Been there, done that a couple times. Anyway, so it didn't do anything, and it's given a warning like, hey, whoa, this is a binary, this is an executable, like can mess up your terminal if you do this. And if I look, it's not in there. However, I can specify the -O, and I could even give it a different name. Like I want to call this NC, and it shows you all of the information, you know, the speed and time left if there's a super large file, and we can see that there's a new file there called NC. We can check what kind of file this is by using the file command, and we can see that, you know, it looks like everything went, and I'm not going to waste our time with the chmod plus X and then executing it. Y'all just have to trust me that it worked. All right. Yeah. So, great. Now let me get to this. This is a great question. I was like, this is Apache 2. This is the web server. This is on my machine. And say, hey, well, what about Python? Well, Python web, you know, web servers are covered in the content as well. However, there's a thing that I'm about to get to. I'm so excited to get to it that you can't do with a Python web shell. Like and to do that, let me just show how that goes. But in order for me to do it on the same port 80, I need to stop Apache. And again, we can check the status of that. Right, and then we see that it's inactive dead, so that'll free up my port there, port 80. And I could do Python 3-m HTTP server and then pop it on 80. And you can run multiple web servers on the same machine. I could have kept Apache up and running and put my Python server on 8000, right? And I'm not going to lie, I'm actually a fan of using Python, the module http.server, right? Put up a quick web server because it's fast. All right. So I'm okay with it. I mean, it's fine. It's not gonna be entirely different, except for the functionality and the control that you have over your Apache 2 configuration. I'm already like halfway through our hour today, right? So I can't go like so far in depth to show you all of the configuration stuff, but it is in the module. And I'm going to showcase like the thing that I'm talking about, which again, oh my gosh, here we go. So we're going back, here we go. And oh, good. I was worried it was going to go back to the beginning. So we're on. This is where we left off, and then boom. Oh my gosh, mind freaking blowing experience for me. It may sound really weird, right? But when I got my OSCP, I was always thinking download, 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 download. Well, what's missing? File transfers go in two directions, right? And I'm like, if there's an FTP server, I can do this thing called an upload. Oh, if there's a SCP, like I can do that. I have SSH creds, then I can upload. If I have TFTP, I can upload. But man, what happens when you don't have FTP, when you don't have TFTP, when you don't have SSH credentials? Well, then download creatively. Or you can download a utility, right? Like Netcat, and then use that utility to upload a file from the target machine to your host, which essentially is like a reverse download. So it's very convoluted and very confusing on how I was doing this, right? And it made things a lot harder. If you're only able to think in one direction. When I got on a Windows system, I was just like, cool. Well, I'm in. Now what, right? But then I would get Netcat in there if I could, and go through that whole process, right? But it was very, very, very convoluted. Well, guess what? We can upload with the Apache 2 web server, right? With this service, we can write our own PHP code to upload from that machine to our Kali host. So I don't want to get into the weeds of all of this code because, again, we have to be cognizant of the time, but this is the code snippet, right? What I'm going to point out with this one as well is we have this thing called uploaded file. There's that string in there, and that's going to play a part in what we're doing for our upload functionality, like how we have to specify it, right? So we are going to use curl with our PHP code to upload a file from the target machine directly to our web server. And all you need is curl. That's it. You don't need to download. You don't need to get a special utility on there. You don't need to think backwards. If you set up your web server, right, you do your coding on your web server to make an upload page, all code is included in the module. That's all you need to do right there. So let's try to do that. Let's try to do this now, right? So, boop, here we go. Again, dirty yellow is the target machine, and the red is going to be the Kali machine here. So I need to start my Apache 2 service again. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll check the status. So it is active and it's running. Now, as part of the setup, in the module will walk through all of the steps that you need in order to set this up, okay? So like the permissions, the folders, the files. You'll also notice that there's this upload.html, and that is a nifty little thing that once it opens, there we go, 127.0.0.1. There's no place like home, right? We got upload.html. Gives you a nice little GUI. So if you were on a Windows machine and you didn't want to muck about with PowerShell or curl or whatever, you just select the machine, right? Or you select the file, excuse me, and then you just click upload. And this is a front end that, essentially spawns off that PHP code in the back. But the real hero is this upload.php code. And I'll just cat that real quick so y'all can see it. It's the same exact thing as on the slide. And again, this is in the content, so I don't want to spend too much time explaining it. But here we are, and we have, whoops, this uploads directory, which is how the PHP file is set up. There is nothing in that directory. I'll do it again. I'll do an AL this time. So everything in a long listing. There's nothing in that directory right now. So server's running. Have the target machine. Well, what might be a cool file to get from the target machine in terms of like penetration testing? Now, oh, let's see. Okay. I'll give you guys like 5 seconds in the chat if you wanna throw this in. Okay, yeah, the password file. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what might go with the password file that would be nice for some offline cracking? Yeah, there you go. Etsy password, Etsy shadow. So let's imagine that we have Etsy shadow here, right? This is the Etsy shadow file, right? We have our root, we have this crazy hash thing going on, and then we have all the system users and the users here, right? So we can take both of these files, smash them together, do some offsite cracking, let our rig run that, right? But how do we get it off? Well, curl -- form. And then this is where that uploaded file variable, if you will, right? That comes into play. And here, I'll show you in this. Let's go up one, right? That's what I was saying. This uploaded file, you can change that and be whatever you want. That means that not just anybody can upload to your server as well. Like they need to know this. Now, can people upload to your server? Sure. Sure. I mean, but they have to figure this out. It makes it harder. So I like that little bit personally. So we specify the uploaded file variable is going to equal the @ symbol, and then we specify that file location. In this case, we're talking about Etsy Shadow. And we are going to hit our web server, which is 45.5, and that upload.php script. So let's see. So we have, its size is 1025. The file shadow has been uploaded. And then we have, like, I didn't put a new line in here for the output, but we have our terminal continuing here. Let's just press enter to go down. Now, this was on the target host, right? So in our host, let's see if it worked. So we look at the uploads directory, and sure enough, there it is. And I'll cat that, right? And if I go up, we could compare this whole hash, right, with the one that we saw on the system, and then verify, yes, these are the same files. So I didn't know this before. I didn't do this before. And it may sound silly that I didn't, right? But I was always like, how can I download in order to download? Right? It's so much more convoluted. But this is something that the Apache 2 service you can set up. Yeah, to me, it's a lot more powerful in this way, and you have the control and the customization of a script like that. Now, let's see. Why did I specify the @ before the file path? I'm telling it this is the file right on this machine that we're going to upload, and we're populating this in the uploaded file variable so that this script can take that and accept it right into our machine. So it's just part of the syntax, and that's why. Yep, you could run John with both the files concatenated. Yeah, like you smash them together in a certain way. And I need to brush up on that a little bit. It's been a while since I've done offsite cracking. But yeah, you combine the two files, Etsy password, Etsy shadow, and then, you just throw John at it. So no, it doesn't work on a Python server because it doesn't have all that coding underneath it, right? You throw up a Python server, it doesn't come with PHP, it doesn't come with the configurations. And I'm showing you this on a really small file. When the files get larger, you have to modify the configuration for PHP in order to accept larger files, right? So you can even control the file size that gets uploaded to your server. So nothing overly big will do it, or you want to make sure that you can support overly large files. And again, that gotcha, that, oh, hey, my thing says it worked, but the file's not in there. It's in the content. I'll tell you exactly where to go. You know, the relative path, not really relative path, but I'll tell you the path, but you'll have to replace the version number, right? Whatever your version of PHP is. But no, the Python module doesn't do the same thing. It's more you throw up Python real quick and you just download it, right? And like I said, I like doing that. If my Apache 2 service is not running all the time, yeah, I'll throw up Python. That's great. Super easy, very fast. But if I want to exfiltrate any information from a system, if I want to have more control on the files that are going there, if I, want to manage some of that, then I'm Apache 2, right? It takes a little bit more time, but once you set it up, I mean, you saw how quick it was for me to get it going. Start the service, files already there, PHP is already there. I already have my toolbox set up. All I got to do is run the command now, and then there it is. So it's, to me, it was very exciting. It was very revolutionary. I was like, oh my gosh, this changes the way. Because I was exfiltrating stuff through like DNS, right? Which I don't know if I don't know if anybody here has tried that or done that. It takes forever. Like it took, oh my God. I don't know how many megabytes, if it was even in megabytes for like an Excel file that I had to exfiltrate, and I was sitting there for like 2 hours. With this, it'd take like 5 seconds. And then again, I had to like transfer the tools onto that host. I had to, make sure everything was there and then set up both of the sides and receive the one end and configuration change on the target host. Like it was a lot more complicated than I have my system set up. What I did one time, I set it up and I'm rocking and rolling and I just run the command, right? So with that, let's move on to PowerShell. I'm skipping obviously the netcat, SCP, all of that other stuff. I'm going to skip cert-util and bits admin. We'll leave that for the module. But let's talk about PowerShell just a smidge here. Boom. And if we want to download with PowerShell, we can use the PowerShell commandlet invoke web request. You might also see this abbreviated as we do in Pen 200, IWR. So, excuse me, commandlets have like shorthand for everything, and the more that we work with it, the more familiar we'll get. This one's a little bit more convoluted in terms of what we require for it though, right? You'll notice the invoke web request commandlet in PowerShell, and then I specify this -URI, right? Then I can specify the web address with the file. And then I need to to specify the out file of the new file name. In this case, I just call it netcat.exe and, just named it what it was, kept it the same. All right. Now, wget on PowerShell is just a wrapper for invoke web request. However, unlike our Nix operating systems, right? So Linux, Mac OS, whatever's running like, a Nix shell in it, we have to put the -o for this out file. So it might be a wrapper that gets you away from typing all this out. I mean, if you do IWR, it's less technically, right? But we have wget this, and then if we don't put that -o, it will not work. We have to put the -o for wget in Windows PowerShell. So the other thing is I have a different PHP script for uploading from Windows machines into my Kali host, right? So this one, unfortunately, doesn't use the special parameterized variable like I had uploaded file before. This one doesn't do that. It's just, hey, it's there and we can upload with PowerShell. The syntax for that is we're going to instantiate a new PowerShell thread, right? Create new object system.net.web client. And then a function of that is upload file. We'll specify our our Kali web server upload script. And then we'll specify on the Windows machine the file of which we want to upload to our Kali machine. Now, this is both downloads and this is uploads with PowerShell. So let's take a look at that in the environment, right? So let me go here. I'm going to stop. Oh, wait. Hold on. Yeah, see? Don't make the mistake I was just about to make. I made that a bunch of times too. Exit out of your connections first before you stop the machines. Otherwise this can hang, and sometimes that's not as much fun. Not as much fun as cat in a binary, Anyway, so let's stop that. We'll go to Windows File Transfers, hit the PowerShell section, and probably we'll have to give it a minute here. Oh, let's see. Well, it says it's starting, preparing. And this is a nice little Windows group. So this is multiple machines. That's why it has a little different icon on it. So yeah, these are also multi-machine exercises throughout this. And I have like one of the exercises, which I haven't touched on, I haven't covered, but I will mention it. The instructions of it are really convoluted. You have to set up 2 SSH sessions. Set up one as like a netcat listener, like, hey, I'm going to receive the file, and then do the exercise on the other one, which is uploading and then stopping that after it uploads. It's all explained in the content, but that has like automatic flag provisioning and stuff that you'll get on the receiving end. So that was a lot of fun to program, but that's between, multiple machines. It might be the same physical machine, it's a virtual machine, but inside of it has more. But yeah, it is a multi-machine approach. All right, so we got 177, 152. Oh word, let's see if I can remember that. Now this is a Windows system, so again we'll go the dirty yellow here. Oh hey, I don't have to remember it. Nice. So I'm going to activate the clipboard, which already happens on Windows anyway. It's just part of the syntax I like to use. The user is OffSec, the password is OffSec, and then the IP is 177.152. And we press enter. It'll say, hey, do you want the certificate to be added? Yes, I do. And this one may be hard to see because I don't know if this one I can make any. Yeah, see, it doesn't let me resize that. So this is going to be kind of a pain in the butt in terms of you all viewing, and I apologize for that, but do keep in mind I'm going to just showcase this to show you fundamentally how this works. And the commands that I'm effectively executing are just on these slides, right? I don't need to show you the code of upload windows, right? I just showed you that in the slide. But it's invoke web request as URI, the web server, the file, and then I'm going to save that file, right? This is if I'm downloading from, a remote machine onto a Windows machine, and then I can do the same thing with wget. So I'm just going to be running pretty much these same commands with, I think I'll just use the same file. I can find netcat.exe on my system and pop it in there, and then we can work with netcat, right, on that system. And then the upload, it will be the same exact one as well. And we're going to try it in 2 different ways because this right here is a relative path, right? I'm in the directory that this image is stored, but we should be able to also do it with a full path like what we did for curl, right? This was the full path. We started at root all the way to the end. So that's all I'm going to be doing. Just try to, oh God, that's so small even for me, man. So just let's use our imaginations, I guess, and we'll go from there. So here we are. So I got the NC traditional. Let's locate nc.exe because it is a Windows machine. I want to make sure that I am transferring Windows binary to use this application. So I'm going to copy this into the root directory of my web server, right? So here we are. It is right here, so it's there. And now let's try to use invoke web request. We'll just stay on that There we go. So we'll go, let's go into downloads just for kicks and giggles. So you'll notice that there is nothing inside this directory. I'm typing dir, right? ls and then dir. So we're going to go invoke web request dash URI http colon // 192.168.45.5. And we are pulling in nc.exe. And remember, we have to specify this out file. And case doesn't matter in Windows. That's just my OCD right there. And then I press enter. You saw that little green bloop, like it was just really quick. It's a small file, right? If it was a large file, that'd take longer. But now we can see that from our web server, we have the nc.exe binary. I should be able to execute that. I'll just try to show the help, right? So -H for the help menu, and it does work. So let's see. Let me see if I can clear that out. And I deleted it, right? So it's no longer in there. And I'll just show you that wget is nothing more than a wrapper, right, for invoke web request. And there it is. You saw the little green bloop, right? There it was again. And we see that the netcat binary is downloaded an additional time. Now let me remove that. I'm actually going to go back into, I want to say I stuffed it in documents on this host. So here's that secrets.jpg image. Now I'm not going to show you what this image looks like until we get it on our Kali machine, right? So we have the uploads. It's going to be in that same directory. Right now, we only have the shadow file that we uploaded earlier. Oh, crud. This is another thing that I was going to show you. I'm sorry. Let me back up a little bit. We can download other tools other than Netcat. Like, check this out. Whoops, I forgot. Just do that. If I were to do the download of this winpeas.bat file, right? It's a batch script for winpeas. Watch this. This is sweets. Bat. Oh, see what happened when I didn't do the -O? Doesn't work. There we go. So you saw a little bloop, and here we go. So I can execute this batch script, and now I can do further enumeration on the target system. It's pretty nifty stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna try to, oh, maybe, yes. I'm gonna try to kill that out. There we go. And now I'm back. So this is one of those things where if I have exploit and I upload it to this or download it from my machine onto the target machine, right? And I leave it there, remember, somebody might come in after you and you're making their job a lot easier. And they probably, if they're not hired by the company, they probably don't have good intentions. So make sure you're cleaning out all your tools at the end of the day. Mark them down, write them down, keep a list, right? So anyway, with that being said, I'm actually going to remove it. So there it is. And we have this secrets. Now to upload this, I start another PowerShell thread here, new object system.net, oops, net web client, and then upload file, right? The function. The very first thing that we do is we hit that PHP script that we're hosting on our web server, 192.168.45.5. And I called this one upload windows.php, windows.php, just to differentiate between the two. And then in quotes, we want to specify the path of the file that we want to upload. So instead of me doing the relative path as I shown in the content, let's try the absolute path and go see users, OffSec, documents, secrets.jpg. I press enter, and it gave me this white text. you know, PowerShell thread opened up, did the thing. And now we can check the uploads again. And now there's secrets. Let's go in there. And I'll run xdg open on this directory. Don't do this as root. Don't do what I'm doing. Do what I say, not what I do. But this is that image, right? From the Windows machine, we just uploaded it with PowerShell. So we've covered different ways to download. We've covered 2 utilities that we can use to upload. Like I said, FTP, TFTP, SCP, those are pretty standard on the download, upload part. So it's not like you don't need to write your own code kind of a deal. But yeah, that's in a nutshell file transfers. There's more obviously in the module than I can cover today. And yeah, one last thing though. One last thing for those of you, I think this is fun, right? I wanted to have a little bit more fun with this module than I already was having, and I think you all could tell I had a pretty good time with it. But check this out. In the wrapping up section, I left something for you all. So there's files. There's files on the machines. And I put the names of the machines, you know, what they're called throughout the content at the very end. The challenge is if you want to do it, if you really want to refine your skills on this and say, yeah, no, I got this. In the file transfers Linux machine, they're on this host inside of it, right? Which if you go through the exercises, it should make sense. And if it doesn't, just reach out to me, right? Like we'll get you squared away. But I got a Kali Glitch C 16:9 image, a desktop, right? Wallpaper. I got a 70s Kali wallpaper on a different host in there. And then I got another Kali background, but a GIF, right? In the file server web root in the Windows file transfers group. So these are not explicitly done in the content, right? However, the challenge is can you get it from these machines and can you own those? And if you can, enjoy. All right, with that, let me do this. Here we go. Boop. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Let me actually grab the Twitch stream. I'm gonna how do I no, actually I'll just leave it over there because I don't wanna deal with the whole matrix thing, right? So you'll just have to look at the side of my face. Any questions, comments, concerns? Oh geez, I'm getting the tips far too late. I'm sorry about that. Somebody else. I could have added a size 75% to help adjust the window size. Thank you. I will take that. I know I could also do full screen, but I had a buddy of mine who's going through some of the content. He did it in full screen and then he disconnected the machine before he killed that session, and well, he had to like hard boot his stuff. So I didn't want to do that in a demo, but yes, I will keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Oh, and the cert ignore. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I could definitely do that, but I just press Y. That's what I do. And oh, on the lab, are we supposed to remove our tools that we upload? The reason why I have to pause on this is technically no, it doesn't matter. But I've been doing martial arts for a couple years now, right? I could learn and putting it in this frame. I could learn how to punch 1,000 times like this, right? Or I could learn how to punch 1,000 times like this, yeah? So the consistent practice and how you do things will affect your outcome. So technically, no. These instances are yours, and once you stop them, they get reverted. Your tools are no longer on there. Everything gets flushed out. But to me, that's practicing your punches like this, right? Because when you get into a penetration test engagement, you're like, yeah, this is how I fight. This is how I fought for years as I was coming up to it, right? I would recommend you build that practice and you build that normalcy of removing your tools. So I hope that answered that. Let me keep going down. Yes, it assumes you have initial foothold of the machine in some way, shape, or form, kind of, maybe. I'll tell you an exploit path that I really enjoy. It's pretty standard, but say for instance, there is an anonymous FTP server that you're accessing, right? So it's unprotected, anybody can get in there and anybody can upload to that server. Well, that server so happens to also have the FTP directory access to the remote server's website. Oh, well, great. So you log in anonymous with the FTP server, okay? You upload a reverse shell on the website in the same language that their website is written. So if their website's written in PHP, you could just stuff reverse PHP shell up there, right? Then you go to the website, you create a netcat listener, and you go to the page of which you just uploaded. And that's how you get an initial foothold. So you technically don't have an initial foothold in the beginning before you conducted file transfers. So file transfers and the concept of that can help you get that initial foothold as well. But the way that I've done it today, the way that I've demonstrated it, it was, an assumption of breach. I'm already in the machine. I'm focusing on the skill of transferring files more than the penetration testing aspect of, now we use this skill and we apply it in this way, right? So let's see. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, appreciate it. I don't know if this is going to be to YouTube. I imagine that it's going to be on Twitch, but then again, it just might be my login. But I see some other videos in Twitch that are there. So I would just check Twitch. You know. But if you ping on Discord, maybe like we can follow up with you on that as well. But I would hope that this is going to be public. I would hope that it's going to be on YouTube, but that's going to be outside of my purview, outside of my control. But yeah. Okay, so yep. Okay. All right, I think I did that. We should be able to create the demo lab locally, right? I mean, yes. Yes. But I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, right? We do have exercise machines. I have flags in those that are made in a particular way. Like you have to do it the way that I expect, I hope. Uh, if you find an unexpected way, like one, I'm gonna give you a pat on the back, and two, I'm probably gonna be like, oh, that's cool. Uh, but but yeah, I mean, if you wanted to practice file transfers in general, we give you or not exam machines, excuse me. We give you exercise machines that you can do it. But if you had your Kali machine and a Windows machine, why not? You can do all of this yourself, just like I showed you. Really, I was just using the exercise machine in this case in that way, right? I wasn't doing the actual exercises that were there because I really want you all to experience that and be able to go through it, right? But essentially I was just using two different machines. It's like, oh, what file do I want to do? Hey, there's this file. Let me just transfer it. Can I transfer it with curl? Can I transfer it with wget? Can I transfer it with ncat? Is there an FTP server on this? Hey, I set up a pure FTPD server on my Kali machine. Can I access that with an FTP client and upload it and download things? But yeah, you absolutely could set all of this up in your own lab if you wanted to. And the content should do an okay job on helping you do that because there's nothing really inherently fancy about it, right? It's just two machines on the same network use a skill, transferring back and forth. All right. Well, with that, we're 2 minutes over. So I was talking a little bit long. We're 2 minutes late. Now we're 2 minutes over. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. I had a really great time with you all. I hope you all check out this module and provide your feedback, be it good or bad. Like if it's bad, that shows us areas we can improve, where I can improve, make it better, make it more understandable. So let us know. All right. And with that, I'll see you all later. Take care, everybody.